okay. Target curves, house curves, whichever you want to call it. How do you find your own? What's the best one? There's so many questions. You know, at this point, if the target curve that you are using is not the one from your existing speakers, at that point it is some type of tone control, right? That's exactly what a target curve is, if it is not your current speakers. So it really now is coming down to what sound do you like. I don't think there is a perfect target curve. You could say there is a perfect target curve for your room and your speakers, you know, but that really then comes down to measuring your current speakers and finding out what the target curve it actually is. So yeah, I've been using a Harman target curve now for, well, the entire time that I've been EQing full range. I started off doing subwoofer calibrations only, and I didn't have access to you know, room correction software or anything like that. And even if I did, I had access to Odyssey on a phone app, which is absolutely horrible. Or I had access to Odyssey automatic calibration, you know, on the receiver, which is I don't advise using it. It's terrible because it calibrates everything to a flat line. It removes your house curve. It removes your room curve. It's, you know, you can't do that. So yeah, I've been using the Harman curve now for a long time, I would say. And just going to load up an empty calibration here in Odyssey. And I don't have a connect button. I think it sounds very good, but you can get issues with brightness, and you can get issues with, there we go. You have to use mid-range compensation. Like, I just felt as I had to use it because my speakers, compared to my speaker's response, the Harman target curve is lifting all of the treble, and all of the mid-range compensation is from like 2K to 4K, around that area. And when you start lifting that area, yeah, I don't think it sounds good. So I was forced to do that, and I'm like, you know, are the target curves we're using here correct? You know, and I'm sure a lot of people ask on forums, like, what's the best target curve to use? The best target curve to use is an interesting one. Do you like the sound tonality of your current speakers is one question I would ask. If you said to me, I really like the sound of my speakers, but I feel as though they are too bright. Now, that's something you can change yourself. A Harman target curve might even be brighter. So this is coming down to, again now, what do you like? And for me, there is not a one-size-fits-all calibration. I've been using a Harman target curve now for all this time. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. I think it is good. It provides a really good sound. But after every single calibration I have done, I've always felt that, you know, after you've listened to it for a week or even maybe two, there is definite, I always call it brightness. It's not actually brightness at all. It's that mid-range area where I just feel it's extremely aggressive in the sound, and I want a smoother sound there. So I first got into mid-range compensation, and that smoothed everything out. But you know, dialogue and everything like that, and surround sound and all of the sound, it sounds good. But yeah, I just got into thinking, couldn't I create a target curve based on my own speakers? I've done. If you've seen my subwoofer calibration video, I've done that. I create a target curve of my subwoofer based on the response that I get. And I was like, well, why don't I do that for the speakers as well? So that's what we're going to do today. Your target curve is your speakers. And but that doesn't mean that they don't require EQing. They still require EQing because they're not perfect. Like you'll see from my response here, I'm going to measure my right speaker, and it is imperfect. So I'm using that as a reference, but that doesn't mean that speakers are perfect either. So just checking these are exclusive Denon and exclusive U-mic. So some people have asked, like, I don't see exclusive drivers. So when you have exclusive, when you connect exclusively like this, you now have access to all 7 channels. Well, I'll say all of the bed layers. You don't have access to Atmos. Atmos requires sweeps from separate files. So OCA provided Obsessive Compulsive Audiophile. He provided Dolby Atmos lossless files that you can sweep every single channel. So that's what I use to do that, and it has timing references as well, so it's excellent. But yeah, you can just you can sweep your 7 channels here, or 8 including the sub. So how you do that in Windows at least, and this will be for the same for Windows 10. So this is Windows 11, but so you come here to playback and you click on your receiver. It's not default right now because I'm using these headphones to hear things, but you can still force output from a Denon in REW by just selecting it. So you go to Properties, Advanced, and here you have Exclusive Mode. These need to be checked. When you check this, they now become available in REW. So allow applications to take exclusive control of this device. That's exactly what this is. Now I'm using Dolby Atmos for home theater here. Don't worry about that. It's 24-bit 48 anyway. So what you would do here is you would select 24-bit 48. The reason I suggest that and no higher is because all movies are 24-bit 48 and you want to EQ to 24-bit 48. I really don't care if your system does 24-bit 192, and even with room correction turned on, like some of the other ones now that are like 24-bit 96, who cares? It doesn't matter. It just does not matter from an EQ point of view. It's way overkill. And it's not going to provide any benefit over 24-bit 48 anyway. So select 24-bit 48. Odyssey is native 24-bit 48 anyway, and I don't see any benefit. Now you could create 2 EQs if you really wanted to, like, you know, get into that. Of, hey, this is my EQ for movies that is true 24-bit 48, and then you could do a 2496, you know, and things like that. For other systems that are not Odyssey and that have higher resolutions, you can do that. But again, at this point, EQ over 24-bit 48 is just like, why? You know, there is no benefit. There's no audible, psychoacoustic audible benefit from it. So, yeah. So that's how you get exclusive drivers. Okay, let's move on. So let's start measuring here. So we've sent no calibrations to Odyssey. Odyssey is turned on, but it is the equivalent to turning Odyssey off because there is no EQ work done on the speakers whatsoever. So let's have a look at the volumes real quick. SPL. Let's get this over here. So SPL, when you take measurements, you want to be in range of your speaker's capabilities, right? If you're trying to EQ speakers at 95 dB, then your speakers are going to be hitting the ceiling for how much, for the sound quality that they can produce. Another thing is the cheaper the speaker you go, the less insulated it's going to be. The louder the sweep is on the speaker, the more chances that you're going to hear resonances. And the thing is, resonances will show up in the response as a peak. If I sweep my right speaker, I mean, I'll go with the right because it was the right. If I sweep that speaker, actually it was the Atmos, it was my right Atmos. If you sweep that speaker too high, I don't know what the frequency was, but it was around the mid-range area, and I could hear the speaker. I could actually hear it resonate in my seat. So you've got to think about like the actual volume that you EQ at. What are you correcting? Are you correcting for the speaker when it is played at 95 dB, or do you want to correct for things that are not pushing the speaker? Because at 95 dB, these speakers are always going to be stressed. They will always be stressed, right? You know, they're not. These are ELAC Unify speakers. You know, I play them loud. I mean, I don't know how loud we're actually going here, but volume is always something to think about. Now, the lower the volume you go, unfortunately, you get close to the noise floor. And that noise floor can have influences also on the response. So you want to be away from the noise floor as well. 75 dB is really a perfect volume level because it is almost a neutral response from the speaker. Now, some of my speakers do have resonances even at 75 dB, right? That is one flaw of all speakers, and that is, how loud can you sweep a speaker and it not resonate? And again, the cheaper you go, this is one thing that cheaper speakers will always lose out on, and that is the I don't know what it's called. Yeah, just not causing the cabinet to resonate. You know. So that for me is one of the biggest things going forward in upgrading speakers, my speakers, is number one, can you play sound loud enough where the speaker itself does not resonate? So, but again, 75, 60, I have done 60 dB EQs before, and yeah, you don't get any resonances, that's for sure. I did 65 dB, and your speakers now are under that. You don't hear the internals of the speaker. So it is something to think about, the actual volume that you EQ these at. So yeah, let's see what we've got here. Right channel. $75 dB, roughly. It doesn't have to. You don't have to be like me, where it's like things have to be absolute exact. We're around 75 dB, right? That's all we need to know. Is as long as, again, you are 75 dB is a neutral frequency or volume, in my opinion, and that's really what you want to be aiming for. So most speakers shouldn't have too much issues sweeping at 75 dB. There could be, though. You know, it's on the edge even for my speakers. So What you could do though is start sweeping a few of your speakers that you think are problematic and or that are giving you resonance issues, and sweep them, lower the volume, even if it was like 3 clicks, right, on the receiver, like 3 dB, and then you did not hear resonances, say from the center or this my Atmos speaker up here, then do that, right? A couple of dB here and there is not gonna do anything. If you're worried about noise floor, what I do is I go to every single window in my house and make sure it is locked, not closed, actually locked, because when you close windows, you can still hear air whistling through the window, at least on my windows. So making sure they are completely closed. Also, what I do is make sure every single room in my house is closed that could potentially allow noise to come in from the outside of car engines and bleed into this room. Every single door gets closed. I'm upstairs, so I just go and close every single door. The noise floor is lower when you do that. So that allows you to bring the volume down if you need to as well. Also, if you have anyone in your house, it is better to EQ when no one's in your house. You know, if someone's like watching a football game downstairs, that noise floor will potentially be picked up on. Dogs as well, be careful with that, like if you know, kids and dogs are playing downstairs and stuff. So I've done everything to lower my noise floor. I've even put things by the doors, at the bottom of the doors, because I don't want any bleed from outside coming in and affecting the results. So, you know, overkill, but yeah, so let's do quicker sweeps. 256 is fine for YouTube stuff. The range is 0 to 24 Hertz because we're in 24-bit 48. This doesn't matter. Acoustic timing reference, but it could be center channel. Yeah, let's do a sweep. Okay, I was doing a sub-cal, so let's have a look at this now. Psychoacoustic, and I have my subs on. I know I do. It's too smooth. Yeah, there we go. Alright, the speakers need to be large. That's the first thing we learnt today. In an empty calibration, I should change this so they are. Every speaker is large. That's bad. So, yeah. Sometimes it's good to make a mistake on a video, because it also shows others, oh yeah, this is... I need to, you know, you need to remind yourself of this is what I need to do. So, yeah, because I know the shape of my speaker, the curve, and the way it looks, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's different. So, we can delete this. And get ready to measure again when that's sent. Okay, we've got this back. Let's go. See, I don't hear any resonances in my front pair speakers, so I should just set this to psychoacoustic all the time, to be honest. So that is the target curve for my current speakers, you can say, right? That's it. But it's wavy, it's imperfect. It still needs EQing. Even if I found a target curve that worked that was almost similar to this, it needs EQing. It's like, look at this, it's bad. There's issues in, I mean, to be honest, this is mid-range compensation area as well. 1 to 2K as well, going on here. And you've actually got a bit of a lifted treble compared to this area. And then it just drops off, right? So Andrew Jones has probably EQ'd this speaker till about 10K, and then he's like, look, that can drop off right there. There is a trend as well that this is going down, drifting down, like most speakers do anyway. Let's have a look at what it looks like, though, in EQ. First off, let's just normalize. I always normalize stuff. I set things to 0 dB because I find it easier to understand. The volume that something is at here doesn't influence its ability to be EQ'd. It could be -30, but you can still EQ it at any volume. It's just relative to itself. So, what? This is low. Wait. What's going on? Oh, right. Yeah, I was doing some subwoofer stuff. So, alignment level at 0 dB should be at 1K, in my opinion, is the best way to get an average volume, because it's almost the middle of the speaker, really. And then 2 octaves. Okay, there we go. That looks better. So right, now we're at the 0 dB line, and now in the EQ section here, we can really see what's going on. So the blue is the target, and this is my speakers, right? So first off, let's pull in a Harman target curve. Now, I said we wasn't going to use the Harman target curve, but there are certain elements in the Harman target curve that are true for even my speakers. So from around here, 1K, I'm going to say 1K. 1K, this looks to be tracking, on average, about equal to my speakers as well, right? We've got a peak of bass here, which we can bring down, and there is shallowness in the bass here as well. But I think, generally speaking, from 1K to 1K down, I think the Harman target curve is tuned perfectly. I think it's tuned really nice. Now, if you wanted to, you can add or subtract bass if you really wanted to. If you didn't have bass up to here, right, and it was, say, down here, you can edit this. So what you do is you go into add room curve here. And so I said, and I think everything up to 1K is good, right? This on average again, the average response here, up to 1K, looks really nice. We can bring the peak down and we can push this up to give some more warmth into the sound. So again, these speakers are not perfect, but you're looking for the average response of the speakers. So I'm not going to change the bass area, but it's good practice to always do this. Set these to the same. So I'm setting these to 1000. Okay, so I'm not going to adjust this area. However, just to demo this, let's say you either wanted more bass or you wanted less bass. So if you see this target curve here, now, the blue, I just lowered it by -1, right? Because you said to me, well, the bass is, even from a Harman target curve, is too high, right? You know, your speakers are measuring lower than this, and on average 0.5 was good for you. Let's just say it was. Or you did, in fact, think you needed more bass, right? You can also do that. Now, when you're doing this, one thing to think about is now the anchor point is 1000. So if you see this, this is tipping up. Let's take this off the screen. Predicted. So this is being anchored from this point. Now, you may not want that, even if you increase and decrease bass. Look, so if you're decreasing, if you decrease the bass, it's anchoring to this 1K point. Now, you may not want that at all. So, that's something to think about. If, I mean, for me, I think the anchor point should be where this starts to rise, which to me looks around 400 hertz. Yeah, about 400 hertz. So let me see now, like if I increase, yeah, see it's being anchored now from 400 hertz. You could go lower, right? This is now debatable how you want to handle that. But even with that said, that you can change this in the bass area. Based on my speakers, my sound, and the sound that I like, I don't think this is necessary to change. I do think it provides a nice bass rise, and it's not aggressive at all. Because again, if anything, I'm lowering bass in my room. This is like bass drum area, and you actually lower that, but you increase warmth. So, I mean, I guess I could test this on some other speakers that don't have the bass, and see, you know, how this is. But if you did want to lower, I would do this very lightly, so it doesn't affect some of this area so much. Or just lower this to like 250 hertz maybe as well. Right, just lower that to 250 and just make sure you're then just really pushing things in the bass area and you're not affecting this now moving into mid-range area, keeping that flat. Things to consider. So that's the bass discussion. I think up to 1000 hertz. I think this is very nice. I think it's a good target to go for. But, so this is a Harman target curve, and as you can see, the target for the treble is higher than what my speakers can do. So again, what we was doing here with the bass, you just lower this until what I like to do is try and find, let's get that out of here, is look for a trend in the response, like an average response. Like where is the average point of this going down? So no, other way. Where's the average response? I think around there. You could say there. That might be around there. 0.3 is the way the treble is roughly falling off. Right there. I could go 0.4. That would cut down this, but it is pretty even compared to its original measurement here as well. And it just cuts through this. So on average, you're almost cutting through the response, trying to find this average point. And to me, that's about it. You could say, well, I think it was better just slightly higher or lower. You might have to test this, right? Run an EQ and, you know, turn Odyssey off, turn Odyssey back on. How close are they in tonality? Oh, this one sounds slightly drier. Okay, this is probably why. So, you know, things to consider. But I like to try and just like, you know, look at this in a different way of where's this trending? Where's the average response for treble? These speakers seem to just roll off after about 1K, right? they're passing on to their mid-range to tweeter area here, and it's just trending down, and you just need to find that. Now so 0.4, so look at the target curve here. 0.4, we were at -4 dB from 0 is where 20k would leave us, right? So I'm going to leave that there for now and just set this back to 0. So this is the difference now between this is a Harman target curve with no edits, and we're actually significantly higher in sound and in treble, and you're pushing your speakers to produce a sound that is not their native sound. So setting this back now to 0.4 is closer to our speaker's original sound, and tonality wise should provide an excellent sound. Again, if you like your speakers, you could say as well, here's something you can do. Every receiver processor has a tone control of some kind of bass and treble. On a Denon, it's +6 bass or -6 bass, and it's +6 treble and -6 treble. Listen to music and find a tonality that you like. You know, increase the treble by 1 or 2. Does that sound better to you? Lower it by 2. Does that sound better to you? You've got like ultra bright speakers. Lower the treble by -2, -3, and see what you like. Listen to it for a week, because sometimes over a week gives you a nice period of time to try and hear your system in different ways on different content and things like that, and you can work out what sound you actually like before you EQ this. Another thing is, if you've bought your speakers and you've bought them because they sound a particular way and you are after that sound, EQing your speakers to a Harman target curve that is not the same as your speakers is going to give you a completely different sound. So do you want to do that? Because somebody said that this was the best target curve to go for. You found a target curve online and you put it in because, oh, I really, someone said online, I really like this one. Well, that's immaterial, because what you like is not what other people like, right? I'm telling you right now, what other people like is not what I like. I personally like a slightly warmer sound in my music. And this is actually why the ELAC Unify speakers are quite good, because they tend to dry this out, this treble, whereas a Harman target curve does not do that. A Harman target curve brings this up, and now I have to worry about mid-range compensation area with snare drums on like dance music and like drum and bass music and stuff like that. It's too hard. It's too hard sounding. So this is, there's a lot of preference in this. Now, so for me, I am happy with this. That is now my target curve, and that's my target curve based on my speakers. We are running through the average response of the bass. We're running through the average response of the tweeter section, right? And the mid-range. This is the target curve for my speakers, but as you can see, it's imperfect. It's awful. So now we need to clean this up. Generate measurement from target shape. So now we have it on here. Now we have it on this page. It is a bad color. REW always gives me the worst colors to deal with. So I actually don't label anything anymore, because when I do EQs, I only EQ one speaker, and I know like kind of what I'm doing. Like I know what's what. because all I need to know is something the target or is something not the target? That's all I need to know. So we're going to do the inverted method here, which is something I figured out from Obsessive Compulsive Audiophile, OCA. His channel on YouTube is indispensable. It is just a forever learning channel. I just, you know, there is so much to learn in audio, and this, to be honest, it really gets me excited, like finding new methods and things like that, and trying new things, right? Just because you're sold on one type of EQ method doesn't mean there isn't something better out there, or that some other guy's method gives you a sound that is just different, or, you know. So as you can see now on the bigger screen as well, you can see that this is trending exactly in the way that I've done it, because sometimes perspective, you want to see things from maybe a different perspective as well, of don't look at things so closely, maybe zoom out a little, right, just to get an idea of what's happening, you know. In the EQ section, I feel like I'm a little close sometimes. Alright, so generate measurement from target shape. Okay, so this is what we have now. Now, I won't talk about this. I thought there was issues anyway with the A over B calculation. Essentially, though, what the A over B magnitude calculation is doing the differences on the 0 dB line here, right? It's the difference between the target, which was 0 dB. It considers the target, the target here, everything on the line of the target at 0 dB. So this is 0 dB. This is 0 dB. This is 0 dB. The target is considered 0 dB because it is what is flat compared to its response, compared to this. How much EQ needs to be applied from the target, which should be 0, compared to the response itself. And I had to get my head around this, like, because I thought I wanted to see the difference between these two. They're not the same. Like the difference, if you see the target here, red line, the difference here between this correction is larger. This space here, look at this space here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe even 5 dB. Yeah, that's 5 dB. But now look at the green. The green was like 2 dB. And I couldn't get it. I had trouble understanding, well, why is it not being displayed in the way that I want to see it? So again, it is just a comparison to the target curve of everything it needs versus that. And it considers the target curve 0 dB. This is why it's now on the 0 dB line, and you can see the differences between the target and the response itself. So yeah, I was I had to contact John, the developer, about this, because I thought it was bugged. I thought A over B magnitude division was actually bugged. So we went back and forth a bit, and we finally, like, you know, this is actually how it works. ELAC unify target curve, because that's what it is. Actually, another thing is what you can do, because I thought I was exporting something else. So export this as as your target curve. Yeah, let me rename it. I'm going to redo that, because that's what it should be. Right, so that's actually saved. My target curve now is saved. So this is a Harman target curve. X that one out. Now pull this one in. So now we actually we can import the target curve into this, and actually have it on the screen. You don't have to mess. You can turn this off now. That you can turn off. The add room curve section, that can come off, because we actually have the full target curve now here. And now you can use this file for every single other speaker and do it that way. Because what I do is I use the right speaker now as my reference target curve, right, for all of my speakers. I get all of my speakers now to sound like that speaker. That is what I did. So yeah, so let's do this instead. Now export this. Where's my YouTube? Yeah, let's put them in here. I'm just going to call it no EQ. Okay, what do we got? Okay, no EQ and correction. Okay, so we want to take care of this bass problem. 50, 78. Okay, so we don't have 5078 here. I reset my RAW, and the imports are slightly off. So this is like 2. These numbers here, instead of saying 78, it's like 8. It's 80. It's always 2, exactly 2 above. And realistically, this makes no difference. But what you can do is export this. Your new file here, export the whole thing, grab the whole thing, copy that, put this into the spreadsheet, my spreadsheet here, to clear column, paste that in there, click off of it, because there's probably things down the page that have just got filled in, and now you can select them all. Split columns into text with a space. Okay, fixed. Fix the formatting slightly, so 6 numbers long. Three numbers long. 0. Control Enter. Sets everything to 0. Control C. Select all. Alright, that's it. Odyssey doesn't go up to past 24. So we set these to absolute 24, okay. And that's it, fixed. Now every single speaker that you measure will have the same numbers that you want to replace all of the time. So let's have a look. Okay, there we go. Now the reason we want to replace these numbers is for this reason. Import a target front right. That's my recent EQ, YouTube, PEQ right. Did I do the wrong one? It's called new EQ. Let's delete some of these. Okay, so okay, new EQ. Okay, so this is fine, right? This is the corrections that we want to make, but you have this massive bass rise, and it's because of the calculation of the response over the target. So we from this point onwards, 49 dB, sorry, hertz. We don't want to correct for this, right? So this is why the calculation is going all the way up here, because it's just showing what we're missing. That's all this calculation is doing, and you have to correct for it. So yeah, that can come out. That's the only reason we're doing this, is to correct for all of this. So what I do is, to correct for this, is anytime I see positive numbers, I'm looking for positive numbers where they start. This is where that rise actually starts, to correct for all of that. 5115. So if we go to our correction text, 5115, and we grab the whole thing up to 2 hertz, which, you know, and we replace that. What does 0 dB mean? 0 dB means there is no EQ done to that speaker. It is left as is. So save that. New EQ. One sec. I need to fix the treble slightly. REW. Oh, okay, that's not bad. REW normally has like errors on the end here, like where it's 6 dB lower than this whole thing. Normally I just pull it out, right? I just delete that, and even now, right? You can just delete that if that number was off. I'm not going to save that, but you can do that. Okay. Front right. Import right. No. Yeah. Is it right? I don't think yeah, it's not that. I have to delete all those. I mean, should have prepared, but no. Just touching on this really quick, this page, because I could just keep a lot of random things in here for this YouTube section. Storm Audio have different target curves for the front LCR and the surrounds. This got me into thinking as well of, is this a good idea? I actually think it is a good idea. It's actually a really, really smart idea, because our ears really get in the way. I have, I mean, I have these seats, right? They get in the way, and tonality changes. If you can EQ a speaker perfectly compared to the right speaker to my right surround, but once you put cushions in and once you sit down, the tonality is slightly different to sounds going around you than they are in front of you or behind you, you know. So the tonality is different. So yeah, you can use a slightly different target curve for the rears, or any single speaker that is behind you, you can use a slightly different target curve. What I did was raise the, I raised some of that treble from 1K by 0.9 dB, I think it was, just to give it a slightly more elevated sound, to try and correct for this this issue of sounds behind us not being at the same quite tonality as the front. So I've tested it and it sounds really, really good. Now there's potential to be more aggressive with it, but you know, really interesting. That gave me some ideas. when I saw that, I was like, ah, there's different target curves for different sets of speakers. Alright, correct file this time. So now we can see, yeah, we're at 0 dB. That means there's nothing applied. Allows the speaker to roll off perfectly. We're having to correct for a lot of treble here. It's like 5 dB. 5 dB's worth. I think the file said like, I thought it said 4, but it's showing here like, you know, there's a correction of 5 dB. Okay, you know, I wouldn't worry about anything that is too egregious. If you're making corrections at 10 dB, that is where I think I draw the line on speakers at that much. That much correction is that's, you know, I think you've gone beyond the performance of your speakers now when you're that much. But this is within reason, right? All of this EQ, it's within everything apart from this little point here is within 5 dB. At this point, that's 6 dB, right? So the speakers are within 6 dB of the target itself. So in the settings for multi-EQX here, you don't have to override the filter cut limit at all, because we're within plus 10 and negative 10 dB of the correction itself, so you don't need to apply that. If you wanted to make aggressive changes, maybe in a subwoofer EQ, sure, you would have to do that. You would have to turn that on. But if you're within 10 dB either way, you don't need any of those settings on. Why do they need to be on? It doesn't hurt that they're on, but I'm kind of like, well, if I don't need it, then I'll turn it off. That's just how I am. Okay. Reconnect to the receiver, and we will send the new calibration in. So what this should do is allow our speaker to sound better than itself already. The target is based on the speaker, but it had so many errors and so much inconsistency in the response that we can still make that much better without changing its tonality, really. I did a video, my last video was like, do no harm to your speakers. And this method was born from that, of, well, I want more accuracy within the response itself, so I can now use psychoacoustic smoothing. You don't need to use one-to-one smoothing and do a light EQ. Just EQ to the average, rough average of your speakers itself. That's what I thought. I'm like, you know, why? What do we have on screen? So I just want the target on screen. Psycho. And we do this. So now, there we go. So, much better response. Is this a bad color? Maybe a deeper, richer blue. Yeah, so you can kind of see that now. So, yeah, we have cut down the bass, that too much bass. We've brought this area in. It's not perfect. I'm going to make another video on how to make this absolute later. I've been practicing a new EQ method, and I can correct for all of this. Everything. Anyway, so from this point here, from 400 Hertz, we are tracking closer to the perfect speaker that this was trying to be, right, in a room. We're trying to correct for perfection. without changing the tonality of the speaker at all. So this is the response now of the speaker, and it is almost the same. It's very similar to the sound that we had. It's just cleaner under all frequencies now. It tracks better. So if you want to see it compared to the original response, there, it's all over the place. It's so inconsistent. So to just see it compared to the target, you know, it's all over the place. The target's still based off of this response, but it's bad. There is no consistency here. So let's say my Atmos speakers had a very similar response to this. When sounds move overhead and they want to transition overhead, and you want to hear things in the middle of the room, in the top of the ceiling, if you've got suckouts like this and peaks and things like that, and all of this inconsistent stuff going on, it doesn't pass over sound well from one speaker to another. When you have a response like this that is clean and devoid of most humps and bumps, I can do more here, as I said, but this is a relatively smooth response now, right? Take the target off. That is a smoother response. There's tiny differences, 0.2, 0.5, right? So we've got differences here of half a dB on some of these, right? But they're not like this. They're not like that. They're not like 5 dB differences now. You know, we're within half a dB of a target all the way down, and it's the target based on off of our speakers. And I listened to it yesterday, and I got all excited again for EQ. You know, I mean, I'm you know, I'm into this, you know, from day to day, week to week anyway. But I just thought, wow, this is just a stupidly easy method of creating a target response or a target curve off of your current speakers. And obviously this method of A over B magnitude division, inverting the response on top of this, allows you to get even closer to its target. And it sounds better. It sounds absolutely excellent. I did some demos yesterday on Dune, and the sound is so good at moving sand through the room, right? It's so good at it. Another thing I've noticed as well is the Atmos channels, they don't sound forced. They don't sound echoey. They don't. It just sounds, when a sound moves from the low, the floor to the heights, it drifts up there smoothly, and it just doesn't sound as though it's coming from a speaker so much anymore. And that's just the difference between what was this, 0.4 tilt? It was a tilt of or positive 4. Positive 4, I think it was positive, yeah, of a difference between a Harman target and my speakers. That's all it was. That was the difference. That all was the difference that I needed. Now it you know, it maybe was quite a bit, right? It was I don't know how many dB it was, but when you look at it that way, it is a lot, because it sounds tonally different now. Another thing, I like to play my speakers loud, and when you have too much brightness in the system and you're playing them loud, I don't like it. An equivalence of the type of sound that I like is if you had, well, I have a Technics SL700 CD player, well, SA CD player. When you use the analog outs on that CD player, the response I hear in treble area is smooth. It provides what I would call a natural sound. I consider analog sound to be more natural than digital. It sounds smoother. When you play music on, like, say, my Panasonic UB9000, and it's running through HDMI, the sound is more clinical. And, you know, I don't like that. This is why when I listen to music, I listen to it on a real CD player that's got, like, excellent analog soundstage, right? Because it just simply provides better sound. It provides a warmer sound. A warmer sound, I guess you could say as well, is it tapers off some of that treble, being too clinical on treble. So another thing is, when you do this, you do not need to use mid-range compensation. So in Odyssey, Odyssey has this turned on by default. So if you don't have the app, I don't know, I think maybe in the phone app you could turn this off. I think. I haven't used the phone app for years though. I don't need this. I don't need this because my speakers are tracking exactly as they should be anyway, which, if this is already built into the response, then, which there was that bump or dip, I don't need to correct for this anymore. At least I feel as though I don't. Odyssey put this in for when you are EQing a speaker to flat, and it just doesn't sound good at flat, right? If you've EQ'd the entire speaker to flat, which I've done before, it sounds horrible, right? And the only way to smooth that response out is adding stuff like this, like a mid-range compensation, to compensate for its errors. That was one of the reasons why, at least I think it was introduced. But when you EQ this way and you're drifting off more than the Harman target curve anyway, you don't need that. You have now have perfect clarity of voices, of music, and the tonality is excellent. So there is a question though now of using this method as a tone control, right? And here is something really interesting. If you went into a demo room where they do have tons and tons of speakers, right? And they allowed you to measure those speakers. If they allowed you to measure those speakers, what I would do, if I was in that situation and they allowed you to measure speakers, right, as well as actually listen to them, I would listen to all of the speakers that they had in the place, right? I would just demo a bunch of them and see what sounds that I like. No, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that one. It's way overly bright and the mid-range sounds boxy. No, you know, just demo a bunch of speakers and see what ones you like. And again, if they allowed it, find one you like. All right, now I found the one that I like. I love that silky treble sound without sounding hard. It doesn't sound boxy. I don't hear any resonances, and it has a nice warm bass. I don't know, you know. Once you've found that speaker, and let's just for instance say they did allow you to measure it, that's the tone that I want for my sound. That's it right there. You measure it. What is it measuring, right? Take it now to the EQ section and put in a Harman target curve as your default, but then start editing this. And I love the tonality of that speaker, right? This is, you found it. I love the tonality of this speaker compared to mine. And you can figure out like exactly what you like and use this as a tone control. You might say, my E-Leg Unify speakers here, you know, it was a blind purchase from you, and you're like, well, I really love the bass, but I just feel as though the treble is too, it's too laid back. I want a bit more. Well, you know, put a Harman target curve in, get this close to your real response, and just increase the treble by a click or two at a time. Set that as your target, EQ it, EQ two speakers at one, EQ left and right. Don't worry about doing all your Atmos speakers, your center channel or anything like that. Only EQ to, when you're testing tonality of target curves, only EQ your stereo left and right. Do it quickly, and as well, there's other things I can do here, but do it quickly like this, right? Just measure, correct for your bass, and put the target curve in, right? And listen to music now. You could even set this on flat, right? You could put all of your special EQ tests on flat. That way, if you've got a home theater already calibrated, right, you could leave that on reference, right? So I'll use flat then. So let's imagine this was fully EQ'd. Just take flat out of the equation, right? Flat is now completely out of the equation. So everything that you've done for your home theater is put on reference. And this new EQ you've now done is just for flat, and you can get an idea now of tonality and things like that. I went for the average response of my speakers versus the target. But like I said, if you wanted just a hair more, or you still wanted less, you can do that too. So now this comes to taste. I've found that, again, I'm happy with this level of bass when I have a subwoofer, and I think it sounds excellent. But I think where a lot of people will always go back and forth is from 1K and below is what is happening to the treble. Like, what is happening here? Because this, you can get sounds that ring in your ears. You can, you know, just some people don't like this brightness. I am one of them. I cannot stand brightness. Too much brightness. Especially, and I'm going to say brightness even in this area. Right? This mid-range compensation area. No, for me, no way. This has to be tamed. So, if you've done an EQ with this, and you feel as though you have to use mid-range compensation to compensate for your actual EQ, I would say that EQ is potentially wrong for the room and the speakers that you're in. Because I found that you don't need mid-range compensation when your speakers are EQ'd to their target, to the target of those speakers in this room. Now, if you had my speakers and they was in a different room, this is not going to be the target for them anymore. It's in a completely different room. The bass will be different. The treble will be different. If you was in a smaller room, you'd probably get more treble. If you was in a bigger room, you'd probably get less treble. So, again, the target has to be based on the room you're in, not some arbitrary thing that we've pulled offline and go with that one. That's the one that sounds good. You can't do that. At least now I'm seeing that you can't do that. But unquestionably, the Harman target curve is the best starting point you could ever have, in my opinion. I've used it for well over a year, and it's provided me with absolutely excellent sound, I think. It's just a pinch, you know. I use the word clacky just in this area. I don't love it. So yeah, I did a full EQ with this the other day, and if you want, I will show you the results of this new method I used, but I will discuss it in another video. Latest calibration right. Okay, let's pull all this out. What was the final? I would assume it's that versus the target. Yeah. The colors aren't the best. But if you saw the screen that I just had, where I had, you know, baggy issues here with base, now this is all cleared up, right? So the goal now was to get a response that was within 1 dB the entire way down my target curve. Treble is easy to get right. Look how close this is. So the target is 5 or -5, and the response is 4.8. When you're within 0.2 and 0.1 of a target, you can't get much tighter than that. Some of these are maybe half a dB, but I said to myself, I stop EQing once I get within 1 dB. It's as simple as that. That might be a 0.9, but I said to myself, once I get within 1 dB, I stop doing what the method that I'm using is. So, yeah. Another example, that was the right speaker, so let's just use a top front left. So this is a height speaker, Atmos, and I want to show you what I'm dealing with here first. So clear all. So that's the response, and that's the target. It's an absolute mess. This is in psychoacoustic, by the way. That means you can hear all of this. All of these differences you can hear. You can hear all of this, and it's an absolute mess. I'm telling you, when you get the response right, which is now this, look how tight this is now. This is crazy sound. Insane sound. And again, I'm going to make another video about how to do this. So, yeah. So that's it. A long-winded video, which is typical of my videos, because I just like talk about things and talk about my experiences in, you know, doing EQ and home theater and things like that. I don't mind if my videos are long, and if, you know, somebody taps out at, say, 40 minutes or whatever, however long my movies are, then that's, you know, it's fine by me. It doesn't matter. I just like to put out there my opinions and thoughts and the process and the way I think about when I do this EQ work and things like that. So, so I'm going to go over the next week or so listening to this method. I've been listening, like I said, to Dune and some others, and the raising of the back. Do I have? Let me show you what I did. So this is a unified target curve that can come out. You would turn right, so that can come off. Okay, so what I would do with the rears, or what I did with the rears, was I added the room curve, and this was obviously now set to 0. It wasn't like -2. So this was rolling down. You know, this is no, that goes the other way. So this time we now want to use negatives, right? So I just if you see here at 19K, the target is -3.9 dB low. Sorry. So one click is 3.5, roughly half a dB, I guess you could say, 0.4, and again that was to 3, right? So by using -2, all I did was increase every single Atmos speakers, all of my back surrounds, my right surround and my left surround, every speaker that's behind me got this EQ, right? And all the difference is that it is a slight raise in the tonality of a speaker. That's all this is, from 1K to this, and it was just a rise. It's a rise of 1 dB, right? That's 1 dB in the treble area. That's not 1 dB here though, right? 0.9. So at 2K, 0.9, 0.9, 0.1, 0.11. See, it's making very little difference here. This is 0.2 of a difference. So it's not, at that point, it's not making any difference to these areas. It only becomes more accentuated the further you go down away from the anchor point. Right, so down here, yeah, it's 1 dB. This is why I only used a 0.2, because I wanted a very light touch on the surrounds. That's all I wanted, a very light touch to increase the tonality. Now, I may do some demos in, you know, a 3 weeks time and really get down to this, of how much tonality I need my rear surrounds to actually have. It may, from this point on, it may not need 1 dB, it may need 2. 2 might provide absolute perfect consistency in the sound of when things go around you, and that's now the perfect EQ. You know, I didn't really go into it too much. I just thought, this is light. You know, 1 dB at 20 is, from an anchor point of 1K, is so light that it may not make much of a difference, but I think that it is worth doing for any speaker that is behind you. So yeah, that's just how I did that one. Yeah, that's the video. I hope I've given you something to think about, that there is no such thing as a perfect target curve, and what it becomes now about is tonality, the tonality of a speaker. Your speaker, when you put it in a room, is going to look like this, or I mean, it may look better, right? But look at this, it's horrible, you know. So there's room correction to be done. There's speaker correction to be done. This is room correction down here, right? We're correcting for room problems. But this is speaker correction. This horrible stuff that's going on here, we're correcting for a bad speaker, or we're correcting for a speaker that is put in a terrible position. Like my front height Atmos speakers, when I moved in, I was like, yeah, we'll stick them against the wall, it doesn't matter, right? That was a bad decision, right? I don't mind the speakers being on the wall because I'm using an Auro 3D layout, but never putting them in the corner, right? Always pull them away. The only reason I did that as well, though, I didn't want them too close to it. There's a door at the front here. I didn't want them too close to that, and I didn't realize how much things are going to work out. But in hindsight, my front Atmos speakers have more bass than my mains. And it's because I've put them in the top right corner of the room. So if I had a choice again, I would not do that. My rear Atmos, because they're not locked up against, you think you might be able to see them over there. I don't know if you could see up that high. They don't have that issue. They don't have this like too much boomy bass, because they're not locked in a corner. They're on a wall, which does give them slightly more bass than my surrounds, because they're right next to a wall. But again, the tonality is going to change wherever you put these speakers in your room, right? If your mains are locked in the corners, right, you're just going to get more lifted bass here, which may be beneficial in some cases, but I fear that you lose tonality by putting speakers close to a wall as well. It gets muddy. It's not a good sound, and the sound stage is too wide. You can't centralize a sound when speakers are way too wide either. So yeah, you know, just things to think about. positioning, everything. Luckily, I've corrected for this. I mean, look at that. I've corrected for all of that with this new method. And for the first time, and I will say this, for the first time, I've got my Atmos speakers actually sounding like the front mains, completely smooth when a sound goes around me. And it doesn't sound kind of weird, you know. I don't really know how else to explain that. So yeah, definitely having a bit of fun with this new method and this new target curve as well. You know, the speakers sound excellent. So I said to my dad, like, you know, come over and take a listen. And he said, this is it. This is the sound. Like, so we went through, we was like listening to his, some of his stuff on SACD, on file, and even just regular CDs. And yeah, this is it. Because it's tracking closer to, well, to a Unify speaker. Unify speakers have a warm sound, and which is reminiscent of analog sound, which is why I think he toned them this way, or designed them this way. And yeah, it just sounds really good. Like, it just sounds excellent. Again, I don't need mid-range compensation. I don't need any of that. And the speakers just sound natural. They sound good. So, yeah. Tell me what you think. Have you actually done this? You kind of figured out, well, there's no such thing as a perfect target curve, so let's make a target curve based on our own speakers, right? Doesn't that make sense? You know, to me, it makes complete sense to do this. And the first thing I would do is to EQ that way. EQ that way, like I did, where you've got your average response in that treble area. Listen to it. Do you think that it needs more treble? Do you think that it needs less treble? You could do multiple different EQs, right? Have them all stock saved and, you know, ready to go. One on reference, one on flat. You can do whatever you want to do. It's really limitless here. But again, this section here comes down to tone control. So this is now what you like. If you like the way your speakers are, the tonality of your speakers with Odyssey off, then that, you're like, look, I don't want any more treble and I don't want less. Then the target should become the exact target of your speakers themselves. So nothing else. But again, the Harman target, I have it linked in the description if anyone wants to download it on my Google Drive. So if you want to, like, just take it, edit it with the room curve editor here, and just make minor changes compared to your speaker. That's all you do. And I think you'll be far happier doing this. I really do. Now, if you've got satellite speakers and you said, look, they're too bright and shrill in these areas, then this is one way to correct for that. But remember, now you're changing the tonality of your speakers. You're now getting into almost speaker design and audio design of what you like. So, but again, this is why we all have different preferences. And again, it would not be a bad idea to see if you can see a response curve of speakers that you do like. Because then you could say, well, I love the sound of these speakers. Now, they're not going to sound the same, but they're going to sound, they may sound tonally similar. You know, I mean, if you want really good sound, unfortunately, you have to pay for it, right? You really do. But EQ definitely, I think, negates a lot of cost. It really does. If you don't have resonances and you have speakers that can play loud enough, you can do anything you like with EQ, and you can make your system sound as good or as bad as it is, right? So this comes down to the sound you like, and you can achieve anything now, you know, with this method. You just need a good starting point, and I don't think there's a better starting point than the Harman curve. So yeah, enough said. I hope you appreciate the video, and yeah, leave some comments, please. Been getting some good comments lately. You know, people are intrigued by different methods and things like that. I think this is a big discussion about house curves and target curves and things like that. And yeah, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. But the Harman curve versus what I have, it's not too far off, right? It's not too far off. But these changes I still think should be made. If you play music on your speakers and you, generally speaking, like the tonality of the treble and everything like that, and you don't want to deviate too much from the design of your own speakers, right? You bought these speakers either for a reason, because they sound a particular way, and you don't want room correction to change that. You've turned Odyssey on and it's completely changed the tonality and the sound of my speakers. Wait, what? You know, you shouldn't have that. You shouldn't be disappointed from the results of an EQ. And another thing, just some advice, is I would EQ as much as you can, because that's what I've done. Over the last 2 years, I've EQ'd so much. The more you EQ, the more you learn about what you like, the methods you use, and everything like that. This is just a, I mean, I guess you could say it's more than a hobby, but if you want to learn what does what to your speakers, what sounds you like, I don't like just checking people's videos out and saying that, you know, somebody says one thing or 10 people say one thing and that's the way it's done. I'm not like that. I want to find different methods and test things for myself to see if I can correlate what everybody else is saying and say, yeah, I think they actually are right. I think that is the best way. But I always try and think outside of the norm of what others are doing, and that is the best place to be. Try and come up with ideas and things that are worth trying. If you've got a thought about a new EQ method, I would try it on 2 speakers and see if it works. You know, increasing your treble by 1 dB on the rears, like I tried, and so far it sounds real good. You know, try things, you know. So yeah. All right, now I am finished. Have a good day, and yeah, I appreciate you watching. Bye.